If a tree falls in the forest with no one there to hear it, does it really make a sound? This logic-defying little riddle has recently been used to discuss possible efforts being made by extraterrestrial life forms to communicate with humankind, but without us even being able to notice. The logic is overwhelming. Although our technology has advanced tremendously in the last 5 decades, we are still far from being able to capture space signals that could be coming from the depths of space. Even so, since 1960, some waves have been recorded. They could give us some clue that there is someone out there who wants to communicate with us urgently. Do you dare to take this call? Then you'd better join us in discovering these disturbing signals throughout history that, without a doubt, could be the first step in making contact with intelligent life outside our planet. Cornell Philip Morrison and Giuseppe Coccioni were 2 physicists that graduated in 1959 when they worked on research that was revolutionary for its time. It was just a small paper in which they theorized about extraterrestrial life and how alien civilizations might come into contact with humans. Those questions were difficult to answer, especially since it was a hard task to try to understand the workings of space and the possible means of communication to contact us. However, after several experiments, they came up with an interesting finding. According to the data collected, the only way an alien civilization could contact us would be to use 1420 MHz radio signals, which could be emitted by the most common element in the universe, hydrogen. The hydrogen of the cosmos would function as a kind of repeater throughout the universe until it reaches its destination. If that were the case, humans would be able to detect these signals, although they would not always be able to understand them. Since the publication of this finding, numerous university laboratories have tried to replicate the theory, and the signals captured by them have been really interesting. For example, in 1968, a group of researchers recorded several unidentified signals from space. Most were captured by the Arecibo radio telescope located in Puerto Rico, and from which the general report of space waves was extracted. The strange signals did not show any element decipherable by the laboratory, nor by any department to which they were shared. Because of this, some considered that it might be a random sound coming from some unusual event in space, but few seemed to follow that idea. In fact, most considered those signals to be the first indications that extraterrestrial life might be present in space. 9 years later, the Big Ear radio telescope at Ohio State University received a strong signal that lasted for about 72 seconds, although no one was present to hear it. The record was kept in the computer and was reported by astronomer Jerry Eman a couple of days later. The anomaly caused a great shock to Jerry. For him, the theories of Cornell Philip Morrison and Giuseppe Coccioni were quite well known, and almost as if it were a prophecy, there it was, what they had theorized decades before. The signals reached a frequency of 1420 MHz, exactly what was expected from an extraterrestrial civilization, but as on previous occasions, there was no way to decipher any code or extract any message. Perhaps because of the improbability of decoding any attempt to communicate made by an extraterrestrial being, the Arecibo radio telescope team devised a way for humans to communicate with extraterrestrials. To do so, Dr. Drake enlisted the help of Carl Sagan, and together they developed what is known as the Arecibo message. On this interstellar radio message, the team encoded basic information about humanity and life on Earth in the hopes that some extraterrestrial intelligence would be able to decipher it. The message consisted of 7 parts encoding data such as the numbers 1 to 10, the atomic numbers of the elements, the number of nucleotides in DNA, a graph of the double helix structure of DNA, a graphical figure of a human plus the average height, the human population on Earth, and a graph of our solar system indicating the exact planet from which the message came. All this information was condensed and sent into space through the Arecibo radio telescope only once, and although it still seems a real mystery, apparently there was an answer. It happened a few months later, right next to the largest telescope in Great Britain, the Chilbolton. There, near the observatory that houses the world's largest weather and guidance radar, a chilling image appeared on the crop circle that grew every year. Crop circles usually have a figure that many label as artificial or fake, although no one can figure out how such precise figures can be made in a matter of hours. However, beyond skepticism, the complete image drawn in this place gave an answer to the message sent by Dr. Drake's team. Several interesting elements can be found in it. Some of them include a different solar system, an image of the non-human DNA of this possible extraterrestrial life, and a microwave antenna as an indication of a possible form of communication between the two civilizations. For many, it was nothing more than a hoax, even though the plant stems were analyzed and found to have a high electrostatic charge and strange magnetic particles. It has never been deciphered if the response was really emitted by alien life, but this did not stop the strange transmissions that began to reach the Earth, which became more and more insistent. One of the most interesting occurred in 2007. By that time, strange sounds or signals coming from outside our own galaxy were classified as fast radio bursts and were recorded on several occasions. Between 2001 and 2007, about 150 fast radio burst reports were recorded, but each one seems more complex and difficult to explain than the last. Specialists are unable to find out exactly what these signals are about, where they come from, whether they are intentionally sent, or if they just come from the natural sounds of space. Many researchers even stated that they were disoriented because it was like hearing a loud bang, and just at the moment of trying to identify the origin, it disappeared forever. Even so, recently in 2017, researchers at the Arecibo Observatory recorded strange signals coming from Ross 128, a red dwarf star located about 11 light-years from Earth. To date, it is unknown if another planet exists in Ross 128 around its dwarf star, but during those days in May, an almost periodic broadband radio signal was recorded for 10 long minutes. This was extremely unusual. The frequency remained constant, then decreased, and finally disappeared. After those long minutes, no further signal from this area of space was detected, almost as if the last trace of activity in this area had disappeared. Like these cases, there are hundreds of other reports throughout the observatories of the world. Every year, new, incomprehensible signals appear on the radars, which keeps the teams with dozens of doubts. Researchers do not know how to decipher the strange cases they encounter, which range from ephemeral space waves recorded in distant galaxies, powerful signals whose strength exceeds 6 times that of any other detected, to sounds that seem to come from some kind of squid or space creature whose frequency is completely unintelligible. No one knows if these signals come from some kind of alien life, or if they are the echoes of events that have already occurred in a distant point of our galaxy. Either way, the investigations continue, and the idea that aliens will find us sooner or later has not been abandoned. In the best case, we will find them first. Now that you are aware of these possibilities, you may be interested in knowing other interesting facts that seem to confirm life in other space latitudes. If that's the case, get ready to explore other universes with us through the following videos. Are you in? Then follow us. It's time to know what is hidden in space.